It started in a quiet suburban town where Paula had carved out her peaceful and tranquil life. She lived alone in a modest house at the edge of town. She was previously married, but had divorced and moved to this quiet home to start over. Although she felt lonely at times, Paula grew to cherish her independence. She worked from home, and this gave her plenty of time to tend to her backyard garden and enjoy the solitude. As Halloween approached, the air grew crisp, and the scent of falling leaves filled the neighborhood. Paula always enjoyed this holiday and had hopes of one day taking her future children to celebrate and share the wonderful memories she had as a child. But the day before Halloween, something strange began to happen. Paula was sitting in bed, reading a book before going to sleep for the evening. As she was reading, she heard a subtle, faint noise outside her bedroom window, like a soft knocking. Paula looked up from her book with concern and decided to look out the window to see what caused the noise. But all she saw was a dark, empty yard, illuminated faintly by the moonlight. Nothing there. She shrugged it off as her imagination, a trick of the mind. Later that evening, as Paula was in the bathroom preparing for bed, she heard the tapping at her bedroom window again, but louder. She instantly felt fear and stepped into the bedroom towards the noise. As she cautiously stepped towards the window, she heard the tapping again. Her heartbeat began to quicken, and then she heard a faint laugh. She was confused by the noise, but her body seemed to react instantly. Fear prickled her skin. Her heart was pounding, but she crept slowly toward the window to see what was causing the noise. She quickly opened the curtains, and she caught a glimpse of a pale figure in the distance. It began to move across the yard with an unnatural movement. And as Paula adjusted her eyes to the darkness, the figure appeared to vanish into thin air. In a state of shock, Paula sat on her bed with her mind racing. She was questioning what she had just seen. Was it some prankster? Was it some sort of animal? Or something far worse? Scared and alone, she called her close friend Max, a kind-hearted guy who had always been there for her. She frantically told him about the noises she had heard and the pale figure she thought she saw. Max listened carefully, reassuring her. "It's probably nothing. It's likely a deer in the yard and some branches tapping against her home that caused the noise." He suggested that, especially around this time of the year, it was easy to have your mind play tricks on you. He told Paula, "Why don't I stay over tomorrow night? I can sleep in the living room, just in case." Grateful for his concern, she agreed. After the call, Paula slowly made her way to the living room, glancing around her home with fear. She sat on the living room sofa, scared to return to her bedroom. She scrolled through social media and found a few videos to cheer herself up. And after a few hours, she began to drift off to sleep. Her body was exhausted, but her mind still felt fear. She woke up repeatedly that night, but made it through the morning. The next day was Halloween. In the morning, Paula went to the grocery store to buy food for her dinner with Max. She enjoyed seeing the children dressed in costumes at the store. It brought her a sense of peace and a false sense of hope that things would be okay. After completing the shopping, she returned home and spent the rest of the afternoon working. Paula would occasionally find herself looking out the window and walking into her bedroom. A few hours later, Max arrived, bringing a sense of comfort. They greeted each other and then went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. He helped Paula by cutting the ingredients while she cooked. As the sun began to set, they ate their dinner and had pleasant conversation. But Paula was still feeling on edge from the night before. Night fell. The neighborhood grew mostly quiet, but they could hear the occasional distant laugh of children who were out trick-or-treating and enjoying their Halloween night. After dinner, they sat on the sofa, But Paula's anxiety had returned. She was tense, and her mind kept replaying the images of the pale face and the noises outside from the prior night. They talked about old times they shared with friends, which helped distract her. In a moment of misguided comfort and misreading her emotions, Paula leaned in towards Max and gave him a kiss. He was surprised and did not kiss her back. Max wanted to continue, but he knew she was feeling vulnerable from her fear and the wine. Max was confused and didn't want to ruin their friendship, so he said to Paula, "I think it's best if I go." She felt embarrassed and ashamed for kissing her friend, and agreed that it would be best for him to leave. Max said goodbye, grabbed his car keys, and walked out the front door. Paula sat on the sofa feeling emotional, and she felt terrified imagining if she would see the pale figure again. The house felt colder, emptier, and scarier than ever before. Paula sat in the dark, staring at her phone. She remained cautious, on edge, waiting for the noise to return in her bedroom. She heard nothing. She was exhausted from the previous nights of emotional turmoil and sleeplessness, and Paula eventually drifted into an uneasy sleep. But her rest was short-lived. Shortly after falling asleep, she awoke to the noise of a notification from her phone. Groggy, she reached for it and saw a message from Max. It was a video. Curiosity and dread overtook her, but she slowly worked up the courage and pressed play. The video was of Max sitting alone in a dark room with a terrified look on his face. It's clear something is wrong. Suddenly, two hands appear wearing white gloves. They wrap around Max's neck. Max's face turns dark as he is choked, and the message suddenly cuts off. Paula instantly began to cry in fear and panic. She wasn't sure what happened to Max, but she had an unsettling feeling this was connected to the evil that was stalking her at home. Within moments, loud knocking suddenly rings from Paula's front door. She could also hear evil laughter that sent chills down her spine. Fearing for her life, she ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. She put her phone on the counter in front of her. She saw the live view from her doorbell camera had been opened. Her heart hammered in her chest as she saw an evil clown and another figure in a dark robe in the view of the camera. Paula let out a muffled scream. She could hear the sinister clown screaming and laughing. The clown's laugh was pure evil. As she was searching for the knife, the evil clown suddenly appeared in her kitchen window. He began to laugh loudly and knock. Terrified, Paula grabbed her phone and ran to her bedroom to call for help. Her tears streamed down her face as she sobbed uncontrollably. She was finally able to call the police, her voice trembling as she explained everything she had seen. The police dispatcher assured her they were sending officers immediately. As she huddled in a corner of the room, clutching the large kitchen knife, she heard the pounding on her windows intensify, glass cracking under the force. The seconds felt like hours. Paula stood up and saw a shadow of the clown growing in the window. Suddenly, sirens pierced the night, growing louder as they approached. Paula was terrified and ran towards the front door. She quickly opened it and began to run away as fast as she could. But she did not see something was on the floor. In her panic, she tripped over the object and fell onto the floor. Paula hit the ground and instantly felt something wet against her skin. Her eyes finally focused, and she caught a glimpse of a motionless body underneath a black robe. This was the same person she had seen on her doorbell camera. In those few seconds, her eyes adjusted to the dark, and she could see it was Max. He was covered in blood and lifeless. She started to cry violently, and in those moments, a police officer appeared at her side. The officer found Paula on the floor, shaking, with blood on her face and she began to scream that the murderer was still around. The officer on scene began to search around her home and property, but could find nothing. No sign of the clown, no other intruders. Just the horrifying scene outside her door, and Max's lifeless body. After the evening of craziness, Paula washed the blood from her hand and her face and quickly changed and packed a bag. The police officer had waited with Paula to ensure her safety, and that evening she drove to her parents' house. Paula couldn't sleep, haunted by the image of evil and its terrifying laugh. After a few days, the police investigation found there was a small campsite in the woods behind Paula's home. They assumed the man was homeless and likely a transient passing through. But one thing is for sure, he could see Paula's home from his campsite. Eventually, Paula decided to leave her old home behind, as she was haunted by the passing of Max and the uneasiness that the evil clown was never caught. She moved across the country to start fresh in a new city. She hoped that the nightmares and her fear would fade with time and distance. For a while, it worked. The new city was vibrant, lively, and filled with new faces and new beginnings. She began to feel safe again. The next few months were peaceful, and Paula was finally feeling at ease again. However, on October 30th, the day before the anniversary of that terrible night, her thoughts drifted back to the clown's twisted laugh, echoing outside her window. Vibrant memories flooded through her as she was hit with the pain and emotion. Exactly 1 year later, just as the clock struck midnight, she heard it. A faint, chilling laugh outside her new house, just like before. The sound sent icy shivers down her spine. The nightmare had begun for Paula again.